Reddit, what is the fastest way you've seen a room full of happy people turn real ugly and sour? What happened? We were at a birthday party for one of our friends. He was a biker and he had a bunch of his biker friends over. One of my husband's other friends, not a biker, was drunk and kept touching my butt. I told him not to touch me or I would drop him. His last time. I walked by and he slapped my butt really hard. I swung around and punched him in the face. Because it was a narrow walkway. His head hit the wall. I broke his nose and it cracked his 2 front teeth. Found out later the next day. He had shitty teeth so it didn't take much to break them. The party went dead. It got really quiet. I yelled at him and told him not to fucking touch me ever again. Of course my husband was upstairs taking a dump and missed the whole thing. He came downstairs and I told him we're leaving. All the bikers went over to this guy and started yelling at him about disrespecting other people's women. And stuff about ruining a good time. I'm not sure what happened after that but we left. No one ever hung out with that guy again. His own brother was part of our group of friends and he never invited him anymore. Outside in line at the WAMU Theater in Seattle. Me and about 1,200 people were waiting in line for about 90 minutes past when the doors should have been open. It was about 45 degrees outside in October. It was the second night of the festival and the whole crowd went from excited 90 minutes prior to absolute fucking anger once the crew walked outside and said show is cancelled tonight. People lost their shit not only because it was cancelled but because they macked us wait outside for so fucking long when they could have told us at noon. A kid had died the night before at the show so the crew easily could have made the executive decision way earlier than they did. The mood went from 100-0 pretty damn quickly. High school. 2001. Everyone was laughing and making jokes about how stupid someone would have to be to accidentally fly a plane into a building. Teacher turned on the TV at the exact moment the second plane flew into the tower on ABC News. Not sure if that counts as being ugly and sour. But definitely changed the mood in the room from joking to we're going to hell. I was at my younger cousin's birthday party and his stepmother was pregnant. Everyone talked about new baby in the family and then my grandmother says how in 8-10 years we will be talking about how I will have a baby. I told them that I don't want children and in that moment my grandmother gets this shocked look on her face and everybody looks at me like I am the worst person ever. And the second time was connected with the first story. About 8 months after I went with my family to visit my then 5-month-old cousin. My aunt told me that I will change my mind about children and proceeds to give me my cousin to hold her. Again I said that I don't want children because I want to have fun while I'm young and not take care of somebody. Of course everyone looked shocked and my baby cousin starts crying. After that they still tried to convince me that I should have children when I'm young and they would always show me pictures and videos of babies but that stopped. At a 21st birthday party several years ago. Having a big house party. Music blaring. Drugs and alcohol in abundance. Good times being had by all. Then some dudes driving by hear the noise and decide to crash the party. While trying to be nice and kick them out politely. One of them says you can't kick us out. And flashes his gun. Never seen a party go from full blown fun to where is everyone so quickly. Someone called the cops and the arseholes took off. We were sitting at the adult table eating our Easter brunch in the house of my ultra-religious brother's family. We were all laughing and recalling funny stories about relatives long gone and after a sudden lapse in the laughter. The room became dead silent when my son at the children's table screamed to his cousin there's no proof of God being real. Easter was pretty much over at that point. Dishes were cleaned and we sulked out without much eye contact. When it was announced our community bank was being acquired by Wells Fargo and 85% of people were going to lose their jobs. Edit. The announcement was made during the end of year managers meeting where bonuses, Christmas party festivities, etc. were discussed. No bonuses. No Christmas party. Most people just got severance for the holidays. Halfway through a wedding reception. Lots of booze. Band leader asks crowd to find out which man at their table has the nearest birthday. Okay. Accomplished. Then. The band leader says. Each guy. Give the flower centerpiece to the prettiest girl at the table. 11 other guys get it right. And give it to their girl. The guy at our table, fairly inebriated, doesn't give it to his wife. He gives it to the prettiest girl at the table. Holy shit. The air got sucked out of the room. The wife is steaming. She looks ready to grab the vase and smash him in the face with it. The other, less pretty girls are fuming. The girl with the flowers has no idea what to do, but her boyfriend wants to kick the husband's ass. The rest of us are either horror-stricken or nervously laughing. We know we are all gonna hear it. The tables nearby have heard most of it, and the whispering spreads. The band starts to play, and the wife takes the opportunity to get louder before storming out. The party was over. He was just doing what he was told. Poor bastard. They announced that in another 30 minutes there would be another announcement about the status of our delayed flight. Edit. I am so sorry for all you poor souls who have dealt with long delays. My heart goes out to you. And yes, technically this doesn't fit because some people were already unhappy. But this was the tipping point for most of the airport that day. At a friend's funeral who had committed suicide, everyone was somber and respectful as the service went on and the clergy talked about heaven and whatnot. The last speaker comes up and says, well, she may not be allowed in heaven because of the suicide and how that's a terrible sin, yada yada yada. A huge portion of the family starts sobbing uncontrollably and some outright walk out. Those that stayed were super angry and began to threaten the speaker. He had to be escorted from the funeral home by security. Edit. By security I mean employees of the funeral home, not the armed guards at clubs. From what I understand of this guy, he was trying to discourage copycat suicides by not glorifying it and saying my friend was definitely in heaven like it solved all her problems. Certainly not the best way to go about it. The couple hosting the party got into a fight with each other in front of everyone, so much so that she slapped one side of his face. Then expected guests to take sides. It ruined everything. People left. Why after Vanilla Ice's popularity, he played some shows at small bar type venues. My friends and I decided to go. As a joke. The atmosphere in the place was really fun. And everybody was having an unusually awesome time. Vanilla Ice didn't go on when announced, and then the DJ took to the mic to announce that he had no showed. The place instantly went into riot mode. Yelling, cursing, pushing and shoving, and then people started throwing beer bottles and breaking furniture. All the mirrors in the place got broken, and the DJ had to run out through the back door. Good times to a full-on riot in under a minute. Over Vanilla Ice. I still don't understand. Hosted a Super Bowl party in Seattle in 2015. In the spring of 1999 I went to a film festival that debuted a documentary about the gothic subculture called Sex, Death and Eyeliner. It was made by one of the guys who made Trekkies and was very similar to that movie. It poked fun at the lunatic fringe elements of the subculture. But overall it was pretty respectful and everyone in attendance, mostly a toned down group of goths, enjoyed it. At the end of the film the producer did a Q&A. And during it mentioned that he was having a difficult time trying to sell it to the right people. The Columbine massacre had happened just a few weeks earlier and for a while the media was trying to portray the shooters as goths. A lot of companies were interested in buying it. And the producer was very concerned about not letting it get into the hands of someone who would try to portray goths negatively. The final question of the Q&A was from a guy who went off on a tirade defending the shooters of Columbine and explaining how he understood how they felt and why they did what they did. The entire room went from laughing and feeling very good to overwhelmingly pissed off at this guy and booing at him. Completely killed the mood of the evening. My extended family had a day at the lake. All day was nothing but happiness. Until we started cleaning up. Half of the family were on the lake and decided to play a prank on the rest of us, who were getting ready to go. They sent a voicemail that they were sinking and didn't have life jackets. There were kids on the boat who couldn't swim. My grandpa believed it, and when none of the nearby boat owners would let him borrow one to save his family, he stole a boat and went out to look for them. He of course found them safe and sound. And there was a huge fist fight when everyone got back. Some of them haven't spoken to each other since. And it's been years. Tell a successful branch that their factory is closing. I was volunteering at a dance at a teen center. Small town. Everyone knows everyone. Night is going great. Then we get a call that one of our friends was killed in a gang related drive-by while getting a soda at a Sonic drive-in. Stray bullet. Wasn't even intended for him. Died in his girlfriend's arms. It wasn't so much that things turned ugly and sour, but the mood in the place did a 180. We turned the music off and just sat around. Stunned. Was at a bar with my GF and a bunch of her work friends. Place was packed and everyone is in a pretty good mood. Dude at the table next to our was playing with some girl's keys and pushed what he thought was the on button to a small flashlight. In reality, it was a small can of mace that he ended up spraying into the air. Cleared out the whole bar with everyone coughing and crying. Outdoor wedding. Everyone was having an amazing time. Around midnight the hail came. Golf ball plus hail. I thought it was funny until everything started breaking. At my work we host weddings. A few years ago the groom and one of our waitresses were caught having sex on the 9th green by the maid of honor. The 180-degree turn of drunk happy people to incredibly angry drunk people was insane. The families were screaming at each other, the bride was crying. The mother of the bride was crying. The dad was being held back cause he was gonna kill the groom. Understandable. We ended up calling the police. They came and escorted the groom's family out the door. Some of the smart groom's family took off right away when they heard. It all happened within an hour. We call the incident night putting. House party. Everyone high as fuck. Having a great time. Find out one of our friends has hung himself. That was nasty. Group of friends. Everyone's having some drinks and laughing and generally enjoying the night. Then one guy gets too drunk. He starts loudly telling another guy in the group all about how he fucked the girl that his friend has a crush on. Positions. What she looked like. Just uncomfortable detail. The friend looks heartbroken and asks him to stop. And he does, briefly. Then comes back with more description. Hysterically laughing at the other guy's pain. The whole room was tense and quiet except for drunky McDrunkface going on and on about laying into a girl that his friend is in love with. It wasn't a room. It was a bus full of 8th graders and it was when, while returning from the 8th grade trip, we came upon the scene of one of the students' brother's murder. He was coming to pick her up from the trip when he was shot in a drive-by. Worst night of my life. Hanging out with a bunch of friends, relaxing, having a few drinks. When one person decides to make a statement how he feels that rape victims are at fault because the only people who get raped are sluts. We don't talk to him anymore. Let's check the news. Britain leaves EU. Fucking LM8. Brazilians watching the World Cup. One day at work we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They'd been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when our boss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them. During bar trivia the question was what was the biggest fish in Finding Nemo, the answer was blue whale. Whales aren't fish. People started yelling at the guy that whales are mammals. They said it was in the water so it counted as a fish. I asked if the dentist was a fish since he was in the water. That Applebee's just barely avoided a riot that night. My 8th grade class cheered when an announcement came on telling us that school was being let out early. Then we were told why. It was the 9th of November 2001. That's an easy one. Thanksgiving dinner. Every year. Topic of politics. Edit. Dogmatism is gross no matter which side it comes from. Please don't take this comment as a pro anyone anything. I live in a smaller town in Kansas and I am Mexican. Family has been here. In this area, mind you. For 100 years. The town is on the interstate with about 20,000 people not far from the largest town in Case, Wichita. My family and I once went to a barn sale about 30 miles out into the country. Picture. A family of Mexicans walks into a private barn on a farm full of white folks in the middle of Kansas. Complete silence. No eye contact except for the old lady selling antique junk who just glares hatefully. So we cruise the place in the different booths where no one makes conversation. We bought some hot dogs and drinks. Those folks were nice, cause we spent our money. We bought some raw milk which no one had the nerve to drink and we beat it the hell out of there. You would have thought we were an invading horde of rabid ISIS trans Muslims. Folks, this was in 2015. April Fool's Day 2009. Everyone at the dealership I was working at gets called into the shop for an important meeting. We all assume it's going to be something silly. The owner informs us that the dealership has gone out of business effective immediately and for everyone to pack up their stuff and wait to be escorted out of the building. We just stood there waiting for someone to shout April Fools. It never happened and the building stands empty to this day. My brother's birthday party. He had recently gotten engaged. My aunt and the loos commented to another relative that it was shame he hadn't found a nice policewoman. Brother is a policeman. His now wife's dad had just finished a long prison sentence to being a gangster and blamed her for his not being promoted in the distant future. Her friends overheard and it all kicked off. Both families waded in. It took a dozen off-duty policemen to separate everyone. They got married in Las Vegas and didn't invite anyone.